Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Be bold, be brave, be extraordinary, be vulnerable, be real, be curious, be true, be you. Welcome to Trusting Your Gut with world-class energy intuitive Catherine McIntosh, a show designed to awaken you to enjoy the process of evolving, have fun along the way, and learn to listen to those silent in-between moments. You are the expert of your own life, and nobody knows more about the next steps to take in your journey than you. So please, listen to your gut and discover what's waiting for you to explore. Here is your host, Catherine McIntosh.
All right, my magical friends. So welcome to today's show. It is a perfect topic for today because I'm feeling quite emotional. And that's okay, right? So today's topic, we're going to be talking about health, your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health, and what to do when you're not okay. And it's so funny because I've been quite emotional the last few days. So I'll kind of preempt it, right? Sort of be transparent with all of you and vulnerable. And so I have been quite clear on the direction of my life. And we're talking my personal life, my professional life, my life as a mom, my life as a business owner, my life as a friend to others. And I got to see in the last 3 weeks, I've been resting and taking a lot of baths and doing a lot of healing work, a lot of meditating, and really going internal. December and January were quite an outward expression of me, and I had a freaking blast. But February, I started to really hunker in and really look at the need to cocoon and to self-care and to stay at home and to do all these things. And as I was looking at my life, I realized that there's probably some things that I personally need to change. Now, this happens for all of us, right? If we have big dreams and goals, if we have new targets for our life, then generally certain things need to leave or shift or change. And so the last 3 weeks have been really introspective in looking at, okay, if I say I want to go where I want to go, then one of two things needs to happen. I either need to change my actions, change my thought patterns, change my heart, change my belief, or I need to change what I say I'm asking for. And, as a coach, as a intuitive to a lot of people all over the world who sort of rely on me for my advice and expertise, it's a really interesting experience for me personally when I'm going through it in my own life. And, like yesterday, I had a ton of sessions and it was amazing. I got to show up for everybody, but I noticed when I was done, I came home and I wanted to cry. And there was no reason behind needing to cry. There was just an energy of, wow, things need to change. And so yesterday morning, I spent 5 hours doing some things with my business, with the financial aspect of my business, with the bookkeeping and the accounting. I've had bookkeepers and accountants pretty much my whole entrepreneurial career. And this year, I realized that one of the things that I don't do very well is I do this. I go, yeah, whatever, it's fine, it's okay. And I went in my books yesterday and I realized that that perspective has cost me tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of going, oh, it's okay. Someone else will do. Oh, it's okay. And I looked at my books and I went, wow, I've spent a lot of money on trusting others when actually, if I were to take ownership of it, not that I have to do my books moving forward, but for me, where I am in my journey, I needed to go do that thing that felt really hard, that felt really uncomfortable, that brought up a whole lot of emotions and, anger and resentment at myself for turning a blind eye onto something that would actually empower me to go deeper in my career, to go wider in the frames and offerings that I'd like to offer the world. And so sometimes, like yesterday, I was crying. My son, he's like, Mom, what's wrong? And I said, it's okay to not be okay. I'm okay. I just needed a release. This morning, same thing, a little bit of a release. And thank goodness for getting out in the mountains. I hadn't skied all week and I needed to get on the mountain. So that is yoga and skiing are my two medicines at the moment. But for all of you out there who might be struggling at the moment, and whether you're struggling mentally, whether you're struggling physically with your health, whether you're struggling emotionally or spiritually, it's okay to not be okay. And at the end of the day, it's always going to work out. It's always going to work out for you. Where it doesn't work out is when we start, and women are genius at this. Men, we love you so much. I sometimes wish that I had the male ability to focus, but women in their physical eyes have 85% more cone cells, so they take in a lot more information. They multitask usually a little bit better. It's easier for them. But the thing with women is they're also extremely emotional creatures, and you can't rationalize with emotion. You just can't. And so men are much more logical. They have 85% more rod cells in their eyes, and they're able to sort of focus on one thing at a time. So when I get emotional and I have no reason or justification for that emotion, it's a little like getting hit and going, okay, what do I do? And so about a year ago, I started doing some research on people pleasing. And oh, baby, people pleasing is a really big topic. And I'm going to say something here that might get a lot of grief. But I believe that a majority of our mental health, our physical health, our emotional health, and our spiritual health symptoms, when we're not at our optimum, when we're not at our healthiest, frame of existence, I believe that that people pleasing might be one of the root causes. So when you're a people pleaser, you try to make other people happy. You will sacrifice your needs for others. You might be resentful. You might say yes when actually you mean no. And what I've discovered is that can actually wreak havoc on your health. And so I've been studying the parasympathetic nervous system, the vagus nerve, the psoas muscle, the spinal cord, the health of the tailbone and the spine in general. And I get to work on bodies and people for a living. So whether I'm consulting with their business or I'm consulting with a life transition that they're dealing with, or I'm consulting with their physical health, I do online and in person and over the phone, all over the world. But I am lucky to be able to, have anywhere from 10 to 20 in-person sessions a week. And I'm on people's spines. I'm working with their tailbone. I'm working with their vagus nerve. And what I've discovered is most people have some form of a gap energetically from their tailbone to their vagus nerve when one of their four healths, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. Now you can include financial, but I believe that, the main four, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. Financial definitely can play into that. When one of those five is extremely stressful on an individual, part of their spine will have an energetic gap in it. It's really fascinating. And so I've been working with the vagus nerve, with the parasympathetic nervous system, and I'm discovering, and this is just my personal opinion. Now, I'm not a doctor, right? There's a disclaimer at the end of the show, but the vagus nerve, which regulates the parasympathetic nervous system, when something in our life is off, our parasympathetic nervous system is off. And when the parasympathetic nervous system is off, it can keep us in constant fight or flight, which sort of separates us from being able to access our intuition. And I don't know about you, I've had a pretty interesting last week and I've experienced some emotions that are quite uncomfortable. My ride, November, December, January, I'd like the best 3 months of my life. And then February hit and I had to experience other sensations that weren't so comfortable. And in that process, it is not wrong, right? These moments where we get humbled, where we feel vulnerable, where we feel a little unstable or unsteady, these are the moments that create like incredible possibilities moving forward, but it depends on how we navigate it. And so, if you are in a crisis of some sort, what makes the crisis worse is your perspective. What makes the crisis worse is your perspective. What is your perspective? Are you beating yourself up for not being in a good place? Or are you being in allowance, recognizing that there is medicine in the journey? And so I want to invite you that if you are having a mental crisis, an emotional crisis, a physical crisis, a spiritual crisis, or a financial crisis, I want to invite you to see what you can do to regulate and work with your parasympathetic nervous system. Now, the parasympathetic nervous system regulates your immune health, regulates your heart health, and it regulates your digestive health. And the physical body will always break, well, don't say always, will break down when we are off, and not just off, but then we're disconnected from being off. What do I mean by that? If I'll give an example. I know somebody who recently was going through grief. They lost their husband, and they were just like, "Oh my gosh, this," and I said, "It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to surrender into it. It's okay to give yourself permission to not want to be around anybody. It's okay to not have to over explain and justify." And this sneaky little people pleaser that all of us have, it wants to defend, it wants to justify, it wants to make excuses. If we're not okay, we feel the need to let everyone know why. And I was working with some people in the last week with some health challenges, and they keep saying over and over again the health challenges. Like, I have this, I've been diagnosed with this is my issue. And I am a proponent of really believing that if we can let go of the need to find a reason for why we feel the way we do, right? Now, in this person's case, with their husband, they're grieving, valid freaking reason. They don't need to tell anybody anything, don't need to justify anything. They just can, take care of themselves. But when we are forced with something that sort of handicaps us or like uncapacitate, what's the word? Discapacitate, uncapacitate, that sort of holds us captive in some way. So we're not feeling our brightest selves. We feel the need to justify why. And it is nobody's business. If you do not want to share your why, it is nobody's business. But here's the thing, sometimes we don't know. So last night I came home, I started crying, I felt emotional, I was a little irritable, a little angry, like just dealing with a whole lot of stuff. And it's human nature, especially in the female brain, to want to try to find the reason why. I believe that if you surrender, that's like asking, why is there a 4-class rapids on one section of the river, a 5-class rapids in the other section of the river, and a trickle in another section of the river? It just is. So sometimes our emotions, they just are. And if we don't attach to them, if we don't feel the need to define or explain them, if we don't need to justify them, if we just are like a river, from its trickle to its ebbs to its raging rivers, if we just flow with whatever emotion is there, the emotion will pass quite quickly. It's the way that we identify to it, that we attach to it, that we put stories to it, that we attach. We're like, oh, that's because 20 years ago, my ex-husband, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, wait a second, you're still hanging on to that from 20 years ago? So I'll give an example. Years ago, I was pretty young. I was in Hawaii on the Big Island at a retreat center and was doing some shamanic work with a sort of a modern day shaman. And we were doing basically blindfolded breath work. And so there's a way to stimulate the dimethyltryptamine, DMT, right, which is also found in certain plant medicines, found a way to activate the DMT in the pineal gland through specific breath work. And then when you blindfold yourself and you do the breath work, it heightens all of your senses. And so now you activate your sense of being in the world. If you can't see, right, you have to take your ego out of it, or you learn to take your ego out of it. And I believe that, certain plant medicines are designed to help people get their ego out of the way. And that's why, I personally, it's been a long time. I've actually never done ayahuasca, never done San Pedro. I've held space for people and watched people, and I've watched these sort of plant medicines flatten people. Why? Because medicine, and that type of medicine, will always give you what you need it may not ever give you what you want, but it will give you what you need. And so sometimes we have to go into a journey of life, not with necessarily taking plant medicines, but with our energetic field in alignment with, wow, life is giving me what I need right now. Am I going to allow it or am I going to control it? And one of the main facets of people pleasing is we like to control our environment without even knowing it because it makes us feel safe. We like to please other people in order to feel safe. But rarely does that allow you to focus on yourself. And so when you're focused everywhere outside of yourself, one of your five health barometers or health meters are going to be off, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, whether it's spiritual, right? Whether it's emotional or whether it's financial. One of those five will be challenged if, right, you aren't recognizing that what occurs in your life is what you need. It may not be what you want. Why? Because in a lot of ways, and people might argue with me, I believe life is a reflection of our internal state. So the last few days, I have been out of alignment with my woohoo, life is amazing. This is so cool. And I've been more like, whoa, I am in like a class 5 rapids and getting tossed in the river. And I'm not sure if I can stay in the boat. I might like abandon ship, right? And I've had to really go inside in that turbulent space and surrender to the turbulence instead of try to control this turbulence. You can't control a class 5 rapids. You can only sort of find a way to navigate that rapid for you. And so I hope this resonates with any of you who are out there, that the key to finding peace, right? There is a season for everything. And those of you that live in 24/7 tropical, amazing. Those of you that may live in 24/7 frigid, frozen, amazing. It's all perspective and choice. I happen to live in a place where mostly there's 4 seasons, right? Actually, we'll call it 3 seasons. We do have 4. We have fall, right? Winter, and then mud season. So we don't call it spring, we call it mud season because there's mud everywhere out from all the snow melting, and then summer. But there's a season for everything. And so to expect that your season is always going to be spring or always going to be summer denies you the human experience, right? Health is sort of this navigational ability to surrender to. And now, I'm not saying if you're depressed to just go be depressed and stay on medication and think that that's your season for the rest of your life. What I am inviting you to consider is if you are dealing with anxiety or depression, it's a season to perhaps go in, to go internal instead of external, to look for the answers inside instead of look for the answers outside. Winter sometimes is a hibernating season. December, January, not hibernating months for me, but February, hibernating month, introspective month. And so as the seasons sort of bloom and blossom and grow and shift and transform you, are you willing to surrender into it instead of fight it? Where people sort of stay long term in a diagnosis or depression or an anxiety is that they think that then it's forever, or they think they've done something wrong. No, the universe is giving you what you need. And so in my last week of turbulence, what I have been fortunate enough to do and to sort of be curious about is recognizing that what I need right now, which is not what I want, But what I need is to clean up some areas of my life that for a long time I have basically done this to, and in particular, my business and personal finances. So, right, I have a big dream, big target, big goal. And as I navigate that big dream, big target, big goal, I I know that there are certain things that I have been like sweeping underneath the rug or hiding in a closet or, putting under the couch. And it's time to reveal. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the season of where I'm at. And this season could last a week. It could last 2 weeks. It could last a month. But it's that willingness to allow the medicine, whatever the medicine of life is giving you right now, to allow the medicine to contribute a possibility into your world. And so, reminder to all of you, it's okay to not be okay. And if you're not okay, my invitation to you is don't keep telling everybody you're not okay, because that will make the season longer. Instead, you want to reframe it and be like, well, it's okay to not be okay. Well, my season is changing. Wow. I guess I'm getting the medicine I need, not the medicine I want. Notice that that's very different than walking around telling people I'm so depressed. I'm depressed. I'm depressed. And you might be, but what keeps depression in place is the judgment or the internal conflict that you create that depression isn't okay. So let me give you another example. About a year ago, almost to the date, a little bit earlier February last year, I knew that I was making a giant shift in my business. I just knew it, right? Big shift, big changes for Catherine, being really clear. In fact, I think we're close to almost being a year with the radio show, which is really amazing. And so I knew I was making this big shift. And the point is, prior to making the shift, I got really depressed. My body started breaking down. Everyone was calling it perimenopause and menopause. And what I believe was happening, and this is just my theory, is when a woman goes through hormonal changes, when a man goes through hormonal changes, those hormonal changes are designed, because hormones, just my personal opinion, especially in the woman, I don't know as much about men, okay? But just my personal experience, when women's hormones shift, so it happens in puberty, it happens during pregnancy, it happens, during breastfeeding, and it happens midlife most of the time for women, depending on their age. It can sort of, shift and change depending on your life circumstances. And so women, as they go through these hormonal changes, their hormones are increasing in their body. Well, hormones, I believe, also increase your ability to be aware. And so it kind of is like, let me give you an example. If you are listening to a radio station that you like, right? And you're listening to it and it's not too loud and it's just nice and right. And then all of a sudden you're forced to go basically to a rock concert and have your ear against the speaker, it is going to be overwhelming. It might be shocking. It might cause you to sort of contract or sort of, like internalize. And so it can just create shutdown. And so when hormones increase rapidly in a person's body, what it's actually doing is creating and broadening one's ability to be aware of all places and all spaces at all times. But we're not prepared. We've never been given an owner's manual of, hey, you're going to go through life and there's going to be certain moments in your life, and it happens to boys during puberty as well, right? You're going to be given this manual or these hormones. And here's a manual for how to navigate when your awareness goes from a trickle out of a faucet to a fire hose, right? It can be overwhelming. And so that increase in hormones, right? All of a sudden you're really aware, well, what happens if we're not prepared? We tend to shut down. And when we shut down, our body shuts down. So let me back up to about 2 years ago when I started to get depressed, fatigued, was having all these hormonal symptoms. I was told to do HRT, hormone replacement therapy, get blood taken, get my hormones checked, which all the things I did. But the one thing that I didn't do was I didn't go introspective. I went extrospective, right? External. And if I would have gone introspective, I would have said, hey, Catherine, how's your life doing right now? How's your level of joy? How's your level of peace? What in your life is off? And if you would have asked me 2.5 years ago, I need to shift my business. But I wasn't willing to look at that. I was forcing myself to keep grinding, even though I knew something wasn't working. And something needed to change, but I wasn't willing to admit to myself that something needed to change. So I got sick. So my body broke down. My spirit broke down. I had bouts of depression, bouts of fatigue, bouts of wanting to give up, bouts of not wanting to get out of bed, bouts of, weight gain and fluctuations and mood swings and panic attacks and all of that stuff. And if someone would have asked me, what in your life needs to change, right? It might have sort of shortened the time in which I spent in a very uncomfortable season of my life. And so for all of you out there, health, so important. Financial, mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical, they're all related to, are you choosing to live your best life now? Even if life flattens you in the moment, guess what? It's a sign, it's a signal that's time to look at what in your life needs to shift. So I'm going to give you some more stories and some more possibilities when we get back from the break. So stay tuned. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the other side.
Om Times TV.
Do you trust you? Do you trust your body? What if the key to unlocking the weight, pain, suffering, fear, anxiety, addictions, traumas, and sorrows was already inside of you? Learn to love the skin you are in so you can create the body, business, and life you love. Everyone always says you can't explain what Catherine does, you just have to experience it. From Hollywood actors to New York Times best-selling authors to some of the world's wealthiest and most successful, no two experiences are the same. For private sessions, online courses, live events, and the latest book Jack Canfield calls Game Changer and should be required reading for everyone, go to CatherineMcIntosh.com. CatherineMcIntosh.com.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
I want to eat, eat, apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
All right, so welcome back to the show, talking about health, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and financial health, right? And so, oh man, it's so interesting when things break down. Our initial impulse is to ask what's wrong. But what if when something in your life is breaking down, your initial impulse was to ask, what's the possibility, right? Because the truth is, and maybe you agree with this, maybe you don't, everything is always working out for you. The times where we go through grief, the times where we go through financial hardships, the times where we go through, breakups, those times they might break us down in the moment. But the truth is, those things are designed to get you into a better place. I mean, when's the last time that you went through something really challenging and you look back at it and you say, wow, that was the best thing that could have happened to me? I needed to wake up. I needed to open my eyes. And so I personally think it's a really big disservice when our body breaks down, particularly, and our mental health breaks down. So we're so quick and impulsive to go, oh, I have depression. Oh, I have anxiety. Oh, I have chronic panic attacks. Oh, I have chronic migraines. Or in the physical side, right? Oh, I have MS. Oh, I have, Lyme's disease. Oh, I have this. 85% of diagnoses are not correct. They're incorrect diagnoses. And so when we stick a label on ourselves during a season of winter, when things might be a little darker, right? We might be a little internal. Maybe we feel like, alone, or we're going through a dark night of the soul. We want to label it. And I really believe that's a disservice, because I think that if we can take a step back and go, okay, what's the universe got planned for me now? If everything's working out for me, how can I relate to this situation in a way that calms my nervous system? How can I relate to this situation in a way that gives me space? How can I navigate this in a way that allows me to feel like fulfilled and satisfied? And I think that if we were to let go of the diagnoses, if we were to let go of being so quick to seek outside answers. Now, I'm all for coaches. I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, I'm an online facilitator. I have been doing this for a living for a long time. And I always have mentors in my life. And I've had mentors my entire life, right? When I was soccer player and a downhill ski racer, I had coaches. When I was a volleyball player, I had coaches, right? When I was learning Spanish, I had a Spanish teacher. So I believe that it's really important for us to sort of side with a mentor or a coach or somebody, but please don't rely on them as if they know more than you do about you. Right? If you are in a change of life, if you are in a winter, if you are faced with financial or spiritual or emotional, what did I say? I've said it so many times, the fives. Mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, and physical. If you're faced with challenges, one of those areas, it might be a really good place to step back and go, oh, what in my life is it ready to change? What am I not paying attention to? And if you can start to pay attention, it will open your eyes and it will open your world to a very different set of circumstances. Now, the people that I work with, what causes the pain, what causes the grief, what causes the strife is that they're forcing themselves to move forward in an area where the truth in their heart or the truth in their soul is that they know that they need to make a change. And so if we don't pay attention to those life-changing moments, we're going to get whacked a little bit. Life's going to mess us up a little bit. And then we're going to go, oh no, I'm a victim to this incident in life. No, you weren't paying attention that it was time to have a life shift, time to make a change, time to do something different. And so for all of you out there, time to do something different. If you can recognize, now I don't know what that is for you. You might not know what that is for you, but what if you could approach the situation from a place of, okay, I recognize it's time for a change. I don't know what's next. Okay, I'm going to anticipate the change as if I was moving into my dream house. Anticipate the change as if I was buying my dream car. Anticipate the change as if I was getting into my dream relationship, right? And so, or like having a dream vacation. And so when we are able to control a new set of circumstances. So what do I mean by that? Let's say you're going to buy a house or you're going to build your own house, right? I have lots of clients who build their houses and I'm like, I love it. I love what you've done. And I watch them through the process, and it's not always fun to build your dream house. The idea of it is great, but there are months and moments where you're displaced, where you can't live there, where I've had some clients that have had to move around and figure it out and move a whole family of 5. And it's a lot, right? So it's not always sunshine and rainbows when you're building your dream house, but the idea of being in it, anticipating how it's going to feel, anticipating the view, anticipating, the garage and the cars fitting in, anticipating maybe you have a heated driveway. There's all these things. And all of a sudden you're like, ooh, how's it going to feel to drive my brand new car with the roof down and, the wind blowing in, and I can drive on my favorite highway with my favorite music blasting. Anticipate. Right? We love to anticipate when it's events and circumstances and situations that we can control. But we don't go into anticipation when it's something we think we don't have control over. And this is where the conflict gets created. This is where the disease gets created. This is where the mental illness gets created, is all of a sudden you're faced with a life transition that you think you don't have control over. So instead of anticipating what's next, instead of knowing, oh my gosh, it's always working out for me, right? Instead of anticipating that, you go into, and the conflict, the resistance, the judgment of it, the wrongness of it is what creates the lack of health or the health challenge that you might be faced with. And again, financial health, maybe you're facing financial hardship. And if you are, it's probably because the universe is trying to wake you up to your gifts, to invite you to think bigger, to get you out of lack mentality. It is inviting you, and you have a choice. You can either go with the turbulence that feels really uncomfortable and unknown, and it feels as if you don't have control. But what you do have control over is your perspective of riding the rapid. Somebody terrified of a rapid is going to clench down and freak out. Somebody who's like, oh my God, this is terrifying, but I'm going to surrender. I'm going to trust my guide to take me through this rapid. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to go on the joy ride. I might as well enjoy it because there's nowhere else I can go. I'm not jumping off the boat, right? And so it's the perspective that we place on these unknown things. And people pleasers, coming back to this, because I really do believe that when you're stuck in people pleasing, which is the need to justify and over explain, which is the need to overgive of yourself, which is the need to never really consider your energy first, right? Which is the need to, I don't know, undermine yourself in order to make others happy. Maybe you have a desire or a dream to start your own business, but you're afraid of what your family thinks, right? Those are all people pleasing tendencies, but people pleasers really like to control their environment. They hate feeling out of control. But if you're asking for a bigger life, guess what? You're going to feel out of control because you're used to controlling your external environment. All of a sudden, the universe is asking you and inviting you to change and control your perspective, your internal environment based on the external turbulence. And if you can do that with ease and grace and mindfulness, if you can do that with support, if you can do that with kindness for yourself, you will change the game. You'll rewire your nervous system. You'll regulate your parasympathetic nervous system. You'll regulate your immune health, your heart health, your digestive health, your gut health, right? There's so many benefits that I'm seeing in guiding people through or holding space, because the truth is, I'm just a space holder of energy, right? Space holder of possibilities and reminding. And so sometimes I have to hold a mirror. Sometimes I have to go to my mentors and be like, I need you to hold a mirror for me because I'm a little lost here. I need a little guidance. I need a little perspective and reminder of this is working out for the best. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way. I got some pretty hard news yesterday, and it was like, my throat started closing, my chest started pounding, tears started to stream down my face. I had this instantaneous gut reaction, and I wanted to react. And instead I went, what if this is working out for my highest good? What if there's a way bigger plan in here that I can't see? So I might as well surrender and let go. And so for all of you out there listening, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to go through turbulence. It's okay to go through depression, anxiety, right? All those things. It is okay. And what you are invited to discover in the process of not being okay is, are you willing to see that what is occurring in your life is not against you? It's for a greater future for you. It's for a greater possibility for you. And if you can shift that perspective, things will really start to change around for you. So if your health is a priority, you might want to look at, wow, what is it time to change? And where am I not paying attention? What is it time to change? And where am I not paying attention? And so shamans used to ask people when they would get sick, whether it was mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, or physical, and they would say, when did you stop dancing? Right? When did you stop laughing? When did you stop listening to music? When did you stop moving? Right? Life is about movement and momentum and shifting and changing and ebb and flowing. We're not meant to stay in the same place for 10 or 20 or 30 years. We're meant to evolve and grow in any and every area that we feel called to. And so if you're asking for a bigger life, chances are things will start to feel a little turbulent. Things will start to feel a little rattled. And that is the moment when you know that you get to go inside and go, okay, what's required? Okay, what shift in perspective do I need to have? Am I willing to let go of control and surrender and ride the wave if there's something far greater on the other side that I can't even imagine? And, for all of you out there, the pain that you're going through, I'm sorry, right? It's not your fault, right? You didn't do anything wrong. For the frustration that you're experiencing, for the confusion or feeling lost, or for not being able to solve a medical condition that you've been diagnosed with, do me a favor and take the diagnosis off, right? What I do first thing when I work with anyone who's been diagnosed with anything, I try and take all the projections from all the doctors, from family members, from anyone that's interacted with them. They're like, oh, we're so sorry. That creates an impact in the spinal cord, in the muscle tissue, in the fibers. Take it off so that you can breathe. Because when we're being forced to identify with something that may or may not be true, it's a lot harder to breathe. It's a lot harder to stay connected to our intuition. It's a lot harder to have a broader perspective and take a step back. So I'd invite all of you to take a step back. You're not as screwed up as you think you are. Your life is working out for you. And are you willing to see it that way? Right? The universe hears your request for a greater future, whatever that is for you, for your physical, for your mental, for your emotional, for your spiritual, and for your financial. And please, 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 please don't ever stop dreaming. So if you would like to explore more, there's a couple of online courses that I currently am offering, and you can join at any time. One is this class called People Pleasing, the class, and it is designed to get you out of all of the stuck places in your world where you have struggled with setting boundaries, you've struggled with claiming your voice, you've like worked on making sure everyone around you is happy. It has giant impacts on your health. And I truly believe it's one of the core foundational sort of reasons that most people, when they're sick because there is an element in their universe where they're not fully connected to their spirit and their power. So they're off worrying about what other people think about them. They're off over justifying and over explaining everything. They're off needing to prove, right? Or they're like, in my case, I was a professional chameleon, something I prided myself in. I could fit in any situation, anywhere. Well, guess what? That's a people-pleasing trait. Wasn't willing to claim my wildness and stay true to it. So in a quiet room, I would be quiet. Right? There is this thing as reading the room and matching the energy, yes, but there was a piece of me that I would leave behind in this process. And in studying and delivering this course and inviting people, and you can join me anytime. And then we have weekly live calls on Zoom where you get to ask me any question about absolutely anything. This is an ongoing series, right? Where you can join. And then you get access to the modules and you get access to live calls with me. They are live, literally live, happening every Tuesday. And so I am seeing people wake up, and the content that is in here and the information that's in here is. So if that's something that you think might be a contribution to you in your world, please check it out on my website. And the other class that is quite amazing is this intuitive energy course. I teach people who are interested in energy and interested in energy work and interested in furthering their journey with energy to do this online course. Now, same thing. You get the modules and the course, and you can consume the content and the information in your own way. There's tons of bonus calls, tons of stuff. I mean, like 2 years worth of stuff in there. And then we still have ongoing weekly calls where you get access to me. And in these live calls, the content and the places where we are able to go is quite extraordinary. You can find both of those on my website. You can also join us for a live Don't Diet, Be Happy event where we deal exactly with basically recalibrating the energy of your physical body, recalibrating the energy of your mental, spiritual, emotional, and financial body. But the body, when we have judgments of it, we shut down other parts of our lives. And so it's about waking that up so you can wake up to what's next for you. So you can check all those out on the homepage on my website. If you liked this show, please feel free to share, comment. As always, thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.
Catherine is not a medical practitioner nor a licensed therapist. She has strong opinions and will express them, and truly believes that you are your best advocate for any and every area of your life. If you need medical advice, please consult your physician.